In this edition of Generations, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the right for women to vote in the US. We find out more from the League of Women Voters. If you have cancer, have you heard about the benefits of Oncology Massage? We find out exactly what it is. And Judy Jenks from seniorcenterct.org talks about how we should be challenging ourselves. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith and welcome to Generations, a podcast for people of your generation. It seems inconceivable in this modern age that any part of society doesn't have the right to vote, but sadly there are still. And this year marks a special anniversary for women in the US winning the right to vote. I caught up with Carol Reimers, Leslie Heffel-McGurk and Laura Smits to find out more. Ladies, ever so many thanks for joining us. All three of you from the League of Women Voters of Connecticut. And this year is a significant year for not only your particular chapter, but for women voters in the US. It's the 100th anniversary of the right for women to vote in the US. Carol, I want to start with you as president of the Connecticut chapter. What does that actually mean to women today?
I think, as we recognize the history of voting for all people, but most particularly for women, that it was a process. Not all women, particularly women of color, were able to join in the enfranchisement when the 19th Amendment was passed. And we still today work on fighting voter suppression because we see that in some parts of the country and some parts of Connecticut even, we see that the voting is suppressed by practices that particularly affect people of color. So that's why we think, the actual act of voting is still vitally important today, obviously, and it's part of the name of our organization.
Now, an interesting thing about the organisation is that you're non-partisan, but it says we never endorse or oppose political parties or candidates, but we are political. So what does that mean?
Well, that means that we take positions on issues that our members have studied. So we have over the past year, many years, have had what we call consensus studies. And in those studies, we have looked at various issues, and the members have come to consensus on what the position of that issue, what the League's position on that issue should be. And at this time, because of all that history, we have quite a lengthy group of positions that we can take action on. And so we're active, the State League in particular is active in the state legislature and before the General Assembly with issues. Most particularly, we prioritize election issues, but we also work on issues, for example, like this year we're working on the updating of the bottle bill. So issues that our members care about is what we focus on.
I want to turn to the two distinct roles which your website states about the League of Women Voters of Connecticut. That is voters, service, citizens education, and also action advocacy. Perhaps one of you can talk to, what the voter service and citizen education role of the League of Women Voters represents.
Hi, that would mean my position. One of the things that we find, Brian, is that there is a lot of misunderstanding about voting and elections. There's plenty of people who don't still know how to vote. They're very intimidated by the process, many of whom have done it, but they're still intimidated by the process. So we try to share with people the ease that we have in Connecticut to vote. We're allowed to vote on election day. We can register to vote on election day. We also hand out information about what it's like to actually go into the polls, how simple it is to register, how simple it is to use the machines. Our voting machines have a paper trail, the safety of our machines. So there's a lot of education that goes on, not just about how to vote and voting, but also what people are voting on. That's where the education piece comes in when it comes to issues. So when we have a study or we have a consensus and a position on a certain issue, we provide people with information about the different sides of that issue and why it's important to participate in an election, even when you don't necessarily understand every single thing about it. So that's an important part, is we try to help people understand things a little better so that when they do go and vote, they know what they're voting about, and hopefully that will inform their choices and they can make better ones.
And then what about the action advocacy aspect of the League?
Well, right in line with what Laura talked about with our voter service is sort of hand in hand in making sure that voting does remain easy and voting machines are up to date, and that voters are able to get, into the polls in a timely fashion. We do have same-day voter registration, but we've also been advocating for early voting in Connecticut. We think that would be beneficial to voters because not everyone can get away from their job or have other commitments to necessarily vote on one day every November on a Tuesday every November. So we have issues like that tie in with the things we care about. We're very active this year on educating the citizens of Connecticut on redistricting, because the census is coming up and Connecticut will be redistricted in a year, probably about a year. And so we want citizens to be aware of how that will impact not only their vote, but their lives, federal funding. There are a lot of things that come in through the census besides redistricting. So we do care passionately about making sure that there is good government and that citizens are the first consideration when laws are passed.
I would continue with that too, Brian. When there is a issue up at the legislature that people are very excited about, we also teach them and encourage them to participate. We show them how to write to their legislatures. We suggest ways to get involved beyond just voting, such as when there are lobby days at the Capitol and things like that. That's the other thing we do, is to educate people about how they can participate beyond just voting for something.
What about also the aspect of women's pay? I mean, we're in the 21st century and still women are not receiving pay at the same rate as men. It seems absolutely incredible that that should still be around. So, do you advocate for that? Because it's a very important aspect of not only everyday life, but obviously a very important thing for all working women.
We definitely advocate for equality in all forms of life, pay, benefits, all kinds of things that affect women and men. We believe strongly that in citizens' rights and the ability of citizens to be able to meet their most basic needs. And so we favor, along with the Equal Rights Amendment and other methods of making sure that everyone has an equal, starts on an equal level. If you're doing the same job, you should be paid the same amount of money.
The other thing I wanted to touch upon, of course, is all organisations either have staff or rely on volunteers. So can you let me know, how do people come to the League of Women Voters and how can they get involved?
I came to the League of Women Voters in the same way many millennials would, which is via the internet. If people want to get involved with the League now, you can go to our website, which is lwvct.org. And there, I would encourage you to look at all of the information we have there about advocacy and voting and all the other kinds of work we do. But you can see there's a join button there. The League is a membership organization, so people pay dues and are members of the organization, but we also do encourage people to volunteer with us on the local level. So there are local leagues all throughout Connecticut. I'm also really active in the New Haven League, which is where I live. And I do a lot of voter registration and things like that there, and always welcome people to join us, whether or not they're actually members of the League yet. And hopefully they join the organization.
And, what do women say to all of you, once they, become part of this amazing organization? What sort of feedback do you get from them, and how do they feel that has either empowered or helped them in their lives?
I can speak to that, Brian. One of the things that I've been encouraged in, and I do believe that others have felt this way, is we encourage women. We've actually given women, I can speak for myself, to run for office themselves. They get involved in the organization for one reason, say they're interested in a bottle bill or helping to get young people more organized to go vote. And then they decide, you know what, I want to go beyond that. I want to become part of the political process. There are women across the nation and certainly across the state who started their political careers with the League of Women Voters, mainly because it was a nonpartisan situation and it didn't really matter what party you were in. You didn't have to pick a side, but if you have an issue that you feel strongly about, the next level would be to get involved politically to help that become a reality, to help change policy. So that's important to people, that we are nonpartisan. So it really isn't about specific candidates. It's really about issues, and yet to take the next step and to get involved as a political person.
It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and obviously Connecticut is better for having obviously the League of Women Voters. Happy 100th anniversary, and thank you ever so much for joining us today on the Generations podcast.
Thank
you,
Brian.
Thank you.
And for more information about the League of Women Voters in Connecticut, visit their website at my.lwv.org/Connecticut. Being diagnosed with cancer is one thing, then undergoing intensive chemo or radiotherapy can be something else. So it's good to know there are alternatives available in the therapy world that can help those dealing with cancer. So joining us on the Generations podcast is Nylene Dresnowski and also Kim Toomey, who are from the Centre for Healing Therapies, which is the home of the Healing Therapies Through Sharing charity. Ladies, to you both, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Now, we're going to be talking about oncology massage. Now, we've all heard about massage. So, Kim, tell us, what exactly is oncology massage?
Oncology massage is the practice of massage with someone who has been diagnosed with cancer or is in a certain treatment phase of cancer, whether it be just diagnosed or in recovery. And it is the art of knowing how to work with someone in all stages of treatment. So there are contraindications to certain strokes and pressures and ways to apply massage strokes, which differ from the average person walking in to receive massage services.
So, Nylene, let's just turn to you as well, because obviously you are also one of the other oncology massage specialists. What can people expect, when they come to see either you or Kim for a service? Just talk us a little bit through that.
Sure. We would take an in-depth health questionnaire to find out what kind of cancer they have, what's their treatment, what are their medications, and then we would build a care program for them, which would be what type of strokes we would use, how much pressure we would apply, where we would work, where we would not work on the body, and then bolstering them so that they're very comfortable for that session that they're in.
So we said at the top of this, oncology massage, people have heard about massage, but, this is very specific. How common is it, out there to find specialists like you? Is it easy? Is it difficult for people to find it?
It's becoming more common. The training is advanced training, so it's a matter of finding massage therapists already in practice who have gone kind of the extra mile, so to speak, to get the training to work with this demographic of folks. So it is out there. You have to know how to find therapists who have done the training. It's not difficult, but I think part of our mission is to educate folks that it is out there and that it's important, if you are in that stage, to find someone who has the knowledge. It's not something that people should take lightly if they have a cancer diagnosis, to just go to someone who practices massage and may not be familiar with contraindications, sites that shouldn't be touched. So it is available. You have to know to search for it.
So one of the big things, of course, is whether or not, like, the medical profession can sometimes be a little bit resistant to things that they consider to be maybe non-standard alternative. So what is their attitude, towards oncology massage?
I believe it's getting more accepting from the medical profession. They're seeing the difference of when their patients receive massage or any alternative method like meditation or things of that nature. They find that their patients are taking less pain medication. They're taking less nausea medication, and their mental status is brighter, is better, and it seems that they can go home sooner after their treatments, or they don't have to come back to the ER for some various reason. So they're seeing that it is actually helping.
From obviously listening to what you're both saying, it's just how your clients look and feel when they keep coming back to you when they're having these sessions. Obviously that's the gold standard, isn't it? It's like, if they're coming back, they're looking better, they're feeling better.
Yeah, feedback from the patient or client is the best answer. Although the research is promising and we have the research articles, I think nothing speaks to the truth better than the patient or client receiving the work and getting the benefit of better sleep, longer sleep. And it might just be an hour of sleep while they're here, which is better than what they might be getting at home.
So, when it comes to obviously having massage, I mean, often people may have, a traditional massage, say, once a month for an hour. I mean, what's the sort of regime here? Is it a slightly more intense regime, or is it down to each individual? I mean, can you just give us a bit of an idea of how long a session will be and how often?
Sure. So it's very individualized, obviously. Some of our clients are coming weekly, and the benefit is they are getting that relaxation every week. And it's sort of training their body to know that they can relax. And so there's a whole slew of benefits with that. It really depends on how the client is feeling. If it's not a good day, if they're sick, we postpone. Some people come monthly. It's really individualized. And what we're finding is we are leaving it up to the client and how they feel. And so obviously more can be better. And more can also be too much. So it's really individualized. And they may only get 20 minutes of actual massage and an hour session because we are bolstering and propping them in a fashion that makes them comfortable. Maybe they are in discomfort from bone pain, or there are various areas of the body that can be painful. So typically, we would like to see clients for about 90 minutes, and that may not be all hands-on time. That might be just talking and getting them comfortable, updating a medical history, seeing where they're at. So it's individualized, Brian, but we would love to see them as they need to be seen.
Now, the other thing is you're unique in the way that you've set yourself up. And I mean, tell us a little bit about that. You're a non-profit. Obviously, this all costs. Money has to come from somewhere. But, talk us through a little bit about the setup that you have here.
So I'll start with Center for Healing Therapies because that was the groundwork to this. We've been in business for 16 years, and we just felt that we started getting more clients with cancer diagnoses, and so Kim and I were talking one day, and we just said, we need more training for this, and so we did. So long story short, we decided that there was a big need for this type of work, and so we started the foundation. We are a 501c3, and so with our fundraising, which we're very dependent upon, with this money from generous donations, we are able to see people that couldn't afford to do this and have this benefit. And so our long-range goal is to have a program that supports the cancer patient, their family members, the caregivers, because they're affected by this as well. So Imagine a caregiver that is on all the time, taking care of their loved one or this individual, and they come here, and as the person that has cancer is getting a massage, the caregiver is also receiving a massage. They absolutely have an hour where they don't have to worry about that person because they're being taken care of.
Also, just want to quickly touch upon something, yoga for cancer as well. So obviously another thing, we know the benefits. I mean, yoga is such an old and established wellness regime. So tell us a little bit about the yoga for cancer, because that sounds interesting as well.
So Yoga for Cancer is a certification now for people who are existing yoga instructors to further their knowledge and ability to serve clients in this demographic. And we are fortunate to have someone here who is certified in Yoga for Cancer. And the benefit is clients can learn that they can practice yoga again, even though they may have had surgery that prevents them from movement. There are ways to accommodate and modify these poses. And so there is research that supports yoga and the advantages of someone who is just diagnosed, who's in treatment, who is post-treatment. And it's a gift, actually, and wonderful to have here at the center. And we are looking forward to incorporating that into our wellness for our clients.
Well, ladies, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and certainly it has illuminated and educated me, because I'd heard of massage but certainly hadn't heard about this more specialised field. So thank you ever so much for joining us on Generations, and obviously we wish you and the centre great success.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks for having us.
And you can find details about Oncology Massage at centreforhealingtherapies.com. And joining us as ever is Judy Jenks from seniorcenterct.org. Lovely to see you, Judy.
Lovely seeing you on this lovely day.
Yes, indeed. It is very spring-like, and it's sort of the dying throes of winter, yet we've still not had that New England big snowstorm yet. So I don't know if we should mention it or cross our fingers and hope we've got away with it.
I'm going to hope that we got away with it, because I'm really anxious for spring.
Absolutely. So what is the ode for this episode?
To challenge yourself. So we're in a new decade, in a new century, in the midst of a huge political season. It's take some time to reflect, decide what you believe in today, challenge yourself. Don't settle for status quo. What we thought was most important in the past might have changed. We're not the person we were 20 years ago, nor is the world the same. I recently was at a networking event, and we were asked, what is important enough to you that you would protest for it? Rather a profound question, and it was pretty deep to answer in front of people that you don't necessarily know. So, I gave it some thought, and then my answer was our basic rights. The freedom of speech, the right to assemble, the right to bear arms, and the right to vote. For others, it was the ocean or the environment. We all know there are many important issues. Some have been around for a very long time and then resurface. And this country was founded so that we as individuals could not be suppressed. We have freedom of speech, which enables us to voice our beliefs. And we need to continue to exercise all of our basic rights. We need to be part of the process. We need to stand for what we believe in. We need to be different, have different beliefs and wants. We need to hear each other and be respectful. We can look around and see the many candidates running for office in our town, our state, and nationally. Who stands out? Who is expressing what you think? Who do you think would do the best job? Pick a campaign, pick a cause. Get out there, get involved. I don't know of a group that isn't welcoming others to join them. Campaign for what and who you believe in. Remember, we don't all need to agree, but we must respect our differences and listen to others' opinions. As Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Now go out and be part of the change.
Very wise words. And we do sort of like live in very polarizing times, don't we? I mean, regardless of where we find ourselves now, in this country, I mean, and, back in the United Kingdom where I come from, situation there, even Europe. I mean, we do seem to go through those sort of periods, because I remember growing up, I mean, I'm 49 now, and I remember as a younger lad that, there was a time, I suppose, in my early to mid-teens that, the world seemed to be going through like a similar situation now. So we do seem to go through these periods, but they're always painful.
They're always painful, they're enlightening, they're inspiring, and I think that we need to always look around. It wasn't too long ago that the world had become pretty complacent. This is just the way things are, and we're just going to go on. And now it's like, we need to sit up and take notice, because there is so much change. Just look at Prince Harry. Who would have thought 20 years ago that would remotely happen? So a lot of change is taking place.
Do you also think as well here in the US, because, when I was living in the UK and Europe, I mean, the Europeans have always been a little bit more environmentally friendly than even the British. Do you think Americans are now jumping more onto that environmental bandwagon? Because I'm not saying Americans aren't environmentally friendly, but it does seem to be sort of like very spotty around this very big nation.
I think that globally, we're paying attention to the environment, whereas before it's always been secular. So if New England was doing something, perhaps it was only New England. If there was flooding going on in some part of the country, or the wildfires, then, they would do something in those areas. And I think we're looking at it differently. And we have technology which can really spread the word and change things. So it's just a very, very different time.
It is. And just quickly picking up on the technology thing, because, of course, we're using technology to create this podcast and obviously to get it out and about. But, of course, we also have to be ever mindful that things like social media platforms do carry a lot of fake or sort of, news which isn't always accurate. So, our critical thinking skills as a civilization are paramount, really, in this day and age.
We have to be thinkers. We have to be researchers. We cannot read anything anywhere, whether it's print or social media, and just blindly believe it. We have to do the research and see if it's really true. A real simple one is, how many times has Betty White has she died? And she has not. So you do the research and you find out, no, she's alive and everything is fine. So we need to do that research.
Absolutely. Oh, well, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Of course, we believe every word that you tell us, Judy.
I don't believe every word I say.
We will catch you next episode. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's all from this edition of Generations. Don't forget to visit seniorcenterct.org to find out what's going on in your neck of the woods. And if you want to send us a topic to talk about or want to be our guest on the podcast, drop us a line by visiting the seniorcenterct.org website. Go to the bottom of the homepage and click the How to Advertise With Us link to get in touch. From myself, Brian Scott Smith, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.